that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine.
Hello everybody. And now I conclude the Sundered Nation Trilogy by Von Roycroft, which has been a phenomenal experience reading this series, and it's been really good. I'll be honest, I didn't write down as many notes as I probably should have. I got pretty engaged with it and just kind of stopped. Just kept reading, didn't take notes. I don't really have too much in terms of spoiler section for this, but I think that's best. I think it's best to just kind of experience it, and because it's self-published, and not as many people have discussed this book as, say, like A Wheel of Time or something, you kind of don't have to worry too much about spoilers. I think that's also one of the benefits of self-published works, but I think this ended the only way it could have, and it was a solid conclusion. I mean, Valdon, his story, Elaine's, Bryn Bright Eyes, who's been the epigraph writer for all these books so far. But also, while it's an ending, it's also a beginning, as the end of the book says. And I'll say, I never think the prose are particularly super flowery in any of these books, but when Vaughn is giving, sort of his gratitude for the readers of this book, is probably some of the most beautiful writing I've ever seen, apart from the book itself. Just him talking to us, I think, was rather beautiful. But I think everything with Valdon and Elaine ended the only way it really could have. I don't see any way, I mean, an author intent is always, I think, an important aspect to anything you review or talk about. But also, like, just in terms of personal enjoyment, like, I don't know what else you could do that would be satisfying in that scenario, so I think it ended well. I would like Bryn, who wasn't really a character in the first two books, but she was here, and she was really good. Urias continues to be stellar. I would say, and Vernius, who I think, we got kind of introduced to in the last book, but really came into his own in this story. I would say the only weakest aspect to me would be two things. One, I think Malvius, who was one of my favorite characters in the last book, he quickly became one of my favorites. And maybe this is part of the intention because he's so fueled with revenge, that for the entirety of this book, a lot of what I enjoyed about him kind of felt like it slipped away. And so, because he was so driven by revenge and became so one-dimensional in that aspect, he became vastly less interesting to read about. Whereas the other characters, the kids that are rising up to kind of become the center stage moving forward, they became more interesting, and felt like other characters went to the backside with that. But I think it ended wonderfully. I mean, it's not a real complete end. It's a hope for a better future. But I mean, more books are supposed to be written in this universe, so it's not like it's the last time we'll see these characters. But I think as the ending of the book, well, not the ending of the book, but the end that Vaughn kind of writes about, I think an important aspect of everything in this series is love. And love can be messy, can be complicated, and maybe not as pure as it should be, but still, love is at the center of it all. And, I from book one, I thought, Valdon's going to become a villain. And he kind of did. But there's also redemption. And, it's not like he flips 180 and fixes all the wrongs he's ever wrought, but with what he has left, I think he changes enough. And enough to make me feel bad when he went away. That's all I'll say there. I won't say anything in terms of spoilers, but if you enjoy the first two, you'll definitely enjoy this one. Do I enjoy it overall more than the previous two? I don't know if I would say that either. I don't know what about it specifically made me like it a little bit less. Oh, I guess it comes to my other gripe, and this is just about the trilogy as a whole, more so than this individual book. And it's a really weird thing for me because on the one hand, I love how we progress through everything and we get through everything. There's no slog. This ain't no wheel of time or we're sitting taking forever to get to the point. No, this series does. It gets to the point. But at the same time, I feel like despite the page count, I haven't spent enough time. I feel like everything happens so fast and yet not fast enough. It's this weird thing where like I'm glad with the pacing, but I also wish there was more, which if there's gonna be a complaint, I guess that's a good complaint to have. But like the second book, for instance, I mean the friendship between Malvius and Valdon and everything, like I felt like that could have been that whole section could have been an entire book, but it was only a quarter of it. And because of that, I just think the overall emotional potential, I mean, it's still emotional. It still got to me, but I don't think it hit the same crescendo that it could have. But I also don't know how I would fix it. I don't know even personally what I would do to change it in my version. So it doesn't matter. I'm not a writer. I'm trying to act. Um, so I just read other people's lines and try to make it sound good, basically. But I really enjoyed it. I think it's a fantastic finale. I think plot wise, it ends the only way that logically could work. Um, but it also doesn't end completely happy willy-nilly. I mean, it kind of is, but it also isn't. There's clearly stuff to come, but it also is like not the peak happy ending either. Um, and I guess at the very least, I'm excited to see more. I think it is props to Vaughn that as the ending of his book, he says, you know, like that this entire trilogy was originally just backstory to the story he's been planning to write. So the fact that a backstory could become an entire story in of itself, and it could be as well as it is, I think speaks wonders. And if you liked the first two, you'll enjoy this one. And if you really want to support Vaughn, if you enjoy these books, then definitely buy a physical copy. But if you are hesitant on whether or not, you know, you want to invest all that, I mean, you can get these books for dirt cheap on Kindle. I mean, read them, check it out, see what you feel, and if you enjoy them like I did, I'm gonna buy all three books, you know, physical, so I can support the man because he deserves it. Um, but I think it's worth your time. I don't have too many spoilers, so move on into spoilers. But if you don't want any spoilers, there's the door. Urias, one of my absolute favorites. Now, unless I was dumb, I didn't see a body. So there is hope that maybe there was not a death. But I'm going to assume he's dead based on how the book ends with him still seemingly dead. But I kind of saw that coming. I think, I don't know where it was in this book, but it was pretty early on. And I thought if anybody's going to kick the bucket, that's not Valdon, because Valdon seemed like that had to happen. It was going to be Urias, and I was right. So, at least assuming he doesn't come back in the next trilogy. One can hope, but he was a good uncle to Bryn and a great character, so sad to see him go. As for Valdon, speaking of which, I mean, like I said, I think he writes what he can with the time that is given. He can't fix all of his wrongs, but there's enough there. Reconciliation with Elaine, you know, trying to fix his people as much as he can with the time he has left and what he's given left to work with. So I think he does what he can. And does it fix all of his wrongs? No, but I think it's a step in the right path. And Elaine and him, I mean, just fantastic. They have a fantastic, I mean, not a healthy relationship, I wouldn't say, but they have a good romantic relationship. Not healthy, just good in terms of storytelling. Let me just say. But Elaine too, that was surprising. I was not expecting that. Bryn, for someone who just kind of wrote the epigraphs in the last two stories, she really came into her own very quickly, much like Malvius. Like, I just kind of fell in love with her. Like, she is fantastic. Vernius's son, he grew on me a lot too. Vernius himself. Vernius is great. I love Vernius. He's a great character. I'm glad he really shined here. I hope he's in a lot of the next trilogy. I don't know. Because it hasn't come out yet, so I don't know. In the promise of the Empire and the Gotari becoming one people in the future is interesting, because they're not by the end of this. In fact, it kind of ends with the Gotari being slaves. I mean, they're going to be like working in the army, so something, but not necessarily the happiest end for them. So I don't know. And of course, Akane's, who is a fantastic character as well. She's going to be the new adopted mother to Bryn, which I think is great. And I'm excited to see more of Akane's as well in the next trilogy. There's a lot that could be said that I'm skipping over. But I do appreciate Valdon being humble in this book, being able to recognize what he did and turn around on some of those wrongs. And I guess at this point I'm still don't know what to think about the gods of this setting, because this is still a fantasy setting, even though there's no magic or anything other than the gods supposedly giving visions and stuff. But right now I'm of the mind that this is just an alternative historical fiction. Like, in my eyes, at least so far of what I've read, I've seen no clear evidence in the text that these gods actually exist. And so right now I'm just thinking they don't. And this is just all people, just a Roman type people and a Gothic like people, and going to war against one another. But I need to reread it. I need to reread the trilogy at some point. I have more I want to say, but I feel like I'm not having the capacity right now to properly articulate my thoughts. But I guess I'll end it with, I know Vaughn is very grateful for people reading his work, but I'm thankful for him for having written it. I really enjoyed my time with it. And, I feel like it's very dangerous when it comes to self-published work, because I really, it's hard to write things, and I'm afraid at some point I'll read something that I don't particularly enjoy, and I don't want to be like a jerk about something, right? But I also want to give my honest opinions. And so when you start picking up a new work, I mean, this also had kind of Philip Chase and Zachary Shea kind of like lazing it. So I was like, okay, definitely want to check it out. But it's always scary because you never know like how you'll personally feel about it. But I found myself quickly falling in love with the world, which is why, I think it's a good thing that my biggest critique of it all is that I just wish there was more. And ultimately, that's the biggest problem I have with it. And then Malvius, I don't know, I just kind of fell out of love with him. And maybe that was the point, but he just didn't hold the same appeal that he once did, I should say. But overall, it's a fantastic trilogy, and I do think it's worth your time. I think it'll touch your heart if you let it, which is all that fiction's really about at the end of the day. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Destiny's Doom. I know it didn't go as in detail as maybe I did with Bold Ascension or The Sundered Nation, the first book, but I loved it. I enjoy it. This trilogy is worth it. Check it out. Go give this author some love, and go check out whenever his sequel series comes out, I suppose. Because again, I mean, this is all sort of backstory that kind of turned into its own story. But the things he's been thinking about since 2011, when I was 10 years old, by the way, is is yet to come. So that's exciting. But I'll be there to support it whenever it comes. So, anyway. Until next time, guys, live long, prosper, and destiny is a tricky thing. Most of us don't have prophecies given to us about our future. In fact, the future for most of us is extremely uncertain. Some people really want to get married. Some people want to do their dream job. Some people don't know what they want to do with their lives. Sometimes it feels really rough and you don't know if you want to endure the harshness that is this world. But if you persist, if you carry on, I think you will find something to hope for. Much like the Qatari people have found a little bit of hope by the end of this trilogy. But, for instance, I have grown up most of my life with no clear ambition, no desire to really be anything, no competitive drive in me. I've had no wish to be anything. I would not have Valdon's problem because I've just never striven for anything like that. I don't have the shadow of my father looming over me. I don't know. My parents have never really been my pillars of moral virtue. I didn't have a Mr. Feeney from Boy Meets World growing up that taught me the virtues of wisdom and all this stuff. Anything positive about me, I suppose, has come from my faith and the people around me that I've allowed to seep into me and change me, or just experience. I've always tried to be loving and kind and gracious and nice, but nice is a problem because nice is not the same as being kind, and I've allowed that to screw me time and time again. So you inevitably have to become a harder person, but you don't want to stop being kind. But again, I never knew what I wanted to do with my life. I've taken up an acting class since July, and that's been going really well. That's not the job you do if you want to make tons of money, because most of the time you're not going to be a Brad Pitt or a Al Pacino. You're not going to make a ton of money unless you're really good. But for the artist, whether it be Vaughn with his writing or Philip Chase with his writing or me with acting, I mean, they have other jobs. Philip is a professor, and I'm not sure what Vaughn does. I'm sure he said so somewhere before, but I don't remember. I'm a waiter at a retirement facility, so we all have our actual things that we do. But for the artist, in whatever capacity that comes, whether it be painting or writing or acting or whatever, you do not go into the arts for the promise of fame or for the promise of financial gain. You go into the arts because nothing else satisfies you. Nothing else makes you feel complete. When I've started going to that class, first you feel like a fraud, like why even bother in coming? You're already almost 25, why are you wasting your life, But then you feel like I've found the only place where I belong. And so it's not ambition. I don't think I'll be the next Al Pacino. But I also think there's potential to be really, really good. So I pursue it. But the Qatari people wanted to be great. And so did Valdon. That's not inherently negative. I think Valdon started to drink his own Kool-Aid, which did not help matters. And he went off the beaten path. It's always best to remain humble. No matter how big you get, remember where you started. And I had a point to make, I suppose, before ending the video. But hubris was a big problem in this series, specifically when it came to Valdon. You try to rationalize it, you try to explain it away, but that's ultimately what it was. So always be humble. Be kind, but don't be too nice, or you'll get taken advantage of. And if life is hard and giving up seems easier, keep pursuing. I didn't know I'd be doing what I'm doing now in terms of like my acting, but I'm doing it. And maybe it doesn't go anywhere, but again, I've gone somewhere more than I was 2 years ago. And the same can be for you. If you feel like you're going nowhere, that doesn't mean that's where you'll be in 2 years. You know, life can change very quickly, positively or negatively, but you have to have the fortitude to stick around to find out. So, no matter how depressed or sad you may get, please do stick around. I mean, maybe you'll make some art like Vaughn has, or greater. Who knows? But you can only find out by sticking it out. And yeah, art is a beautiful thing, in whatever form it takes. And everybody matters, big and small. From Valdon to Bryn, everybody's got some part to play. So, yeah. I don't know if any of that made sense, but there's some hope, semblance of wisdom for you there. But thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this book, let me know what you thought of it in the comment section below. And of course, because I'm sure he will watch, thank you, Vaughn Roycroft, for this trilogy. And I look forward to whatever else you have in store. Till next time, see you later.